what is NLP really about, and you start looking at the literature, you'll find that the co-developers talked about it's the study of the structure of subjective experience. That is, how we do what we do inside here. It's subjectivity, it's consciousness. And when you look at, well, how could that work, or how can that make a difference in life, one way of thinking of it goes like this. You produce results in your life as it exists, all the friends, family, loved ones, colleagues, career, all the different aspects of your life, love it or hate it, you produce those results. And when you ask, well, if you wanted to change a result in any area, because most of your life, I'm assuming, is hunky-dory, leave it alone, don't mess with it, but stuff comes up in different areas where you go, whoa, I don't like this, it's time to do something about it, then doing something different is the only way to produce a different result. So far, so simple, yeah? But then you go, well, how do you get to do something different? Most obviously, you think a different thought. I've tried this, let's try this approach. But then there's a lot more to it than that. We're most conscious of what we think and what we do. And most people go, yeah, makes sense to me. What we tend to be less conscious of in our culture is that everything we do, in a sense, is driven by feelings. We're either motivated towards or away from. And that word emotion, it's got motion in it. It's about movement. So in a sense, our feelings, and especially the ones we're less conscious of, are key drivers, but also your reality, the world you live in, your version of reality, your personal worldview, your model of the world, as they call it in NLP, that's made up of a bunch of belief systems, and a lot of those are not in conscious awareness. Some of them are, and that's great, they're easy to change. It's the beliefs that sit in the background that can get very interesting. So sometimes you can just change your surface behaviour and what you think and get a different result. Sometimes it actually means increasing awareness of what's driving you in terms of feelings or belief systems to do or not do certain things. And NLP is great for skills in all of those areas. Now, the last thing I'd say around this is, for those of you that are interested in the correct words, NLP is a kind of applied psychology that's based on what's called radical constructivism, and it simply means that reality is constructed. We make it up. But we really, really make it up in this sense that you're listening to me at the moment, and you kind of think you're seeing and hearing me direct in real time, and you are, except that your real time is running, and mine too, runs a bit under half a second behind real time, because that's how long it takes your eyes and ears to take in the sensory-based input, do a lot of very fancy parallel processing in here, and come back out so that you see and hear me, apparently in real time, but actually delayed by a fraction of a second. Does that make sense? And that's hard neuroscience, it's not psychobabbly stuff. That is the actuality of what we do. And NLP is about how we construct our reality, and depending on how we do that, how we create results. Let me pause briefly. Does that make some kind of sense for a slightly fuller version than the first very simple one? Okay, so it's for you to think through, in what area of your life would you want to change your results? And what would it be worth investing some time and energy in, whether it's at work or your personal life, whether it's money, relationships, spirituality, any area. Now, that's fine, except, of course, that it's not going to be as simple as that. And there's a lovely saying that I always remember about this point in talking about it, that if your mind were so simple that you could understand it, then you would be so simple that you couldn't. Do you want to rerun that one another time or not? If your mind was so simple that you could understand it, you would be so simple you couldn't. Now, what's that about? Well, it's paradox. When you start looking at consciousness and go, what is this consciousness thing anyway? How does it work? It turns out to be ridden with those kinds of paradoxes. So bearing in mind that it's never going to be as simple as anything I say about it, but without some simple models it's hard to make progress, are you ready for the the next stage on from this one. So simple enough, you go, yeah, got the hang of that. Okay, well, try this. Slightly more complicated, but hold it. It's the same stuff. This is a person. This is what they do, what they think, what they know, what they feel. This is another person, and I've actually changed the language a bit to make it slightly more NLP-like. That our thinking, there are things we do in here. We see images, we talk to ourselves, we have feelings, and a stream of that stuff is how we think. That is our flow of consciousness. Just as our behaviour isn't just behaviour, it's how you do what you do. It's the gestures, the expressions that will make a difference on that front. Emotions, a lot more detail about those, both reading them and changing them, so that if you want to, you can develop different emotional choices. That's popular for difficult situations, challenging ones. But also getting into all the different levels of beliefs and basically becoming more and more the author of your own belief system. Now, you may believe you can or not do any of that, but for the moment I would say suspend disbelief is the best way to open doorways to new and useful bits. With difficulty, because they overlap. You're right. You see, it isn't as simple as this, and that's why I said that business about keep it as simple as possible, but no simpler. They overlap. Generally speaking, quite a good test is if you know what a belief is, you're thinking about it at that time. But some beliefs, you don't know you've got them. All you get is evidence that, oh, I must have some scarcity belief running because this keeps happening to me. And those are the tricky ones to work with. There are ways of doing it, but ultimately, they're not separate. All of these are interconnected seamlessly. You can't, cut a body into 4 bits, and it doesn't, it's all interconnected. But for the purpose of thinking about it, it's useful to strip it out as those different aspects. I think of them as dimensions. They're different dimensions of experience. What you're thinking, what you're doing, what emotions are driving the show, and your belief systems about yourself, other people, the world. So you just go, when is it useful to think of it as a belief? When is it useful to think of it as a thought? Because it's a bit both. It's a bit both.